Hey everybody, welcome back to the couch, episode 25, fresh off of a Christmas celebration. I hope you guys had a great time celebrating whatever it is you celebrated, if anything at all. I know we have people from all kinds of backgrounds celebrating all kinds of things, be it Christmas, be it Hanukkah, be it just being with family, whatever. I think we should take the opportunities we get to celebrate, especially these days. People get real cynical about calendar holidays, and I do too, but I think when life says, hey, have a good time with people you care about and celebrate, that seems fairly rare these days, and we should take it. I've had similar conversations with people about weddings. I know a lot of people are kind of cynical and jaded about weddings, and it's a social construct and it's bleh. I'm like, right, but most social constructs suck. If we stumble upon a social construct that is essentially two people celebrating the fact that they're in love with cake and dancing, I'm all for it. I think that's great. I think, we should have more stuff like that and fewer things like, well, I won't say what we should have less of because I don't want to get myself in trouble. But thank you guys for being here. I'm glad that you're here. On the day that you're watching this, if you watch it the day it comes out, it will be 290 days of COVID living, which is a lot. And in some ways, I feel like I'm getting used to it. And in some ways that makes it easier, and in some ways it makes it a little more sad. You think about what we've lost, not just most of all in the way of actual human life, but just the niceties, the things, like I'm a hugger. Like me and all the dudes in my bands, we hug and we tell each other we love each other, and I hug all my friends, and for 290 days I've just been hugging my wife and my son, which is great. It's one of my favorite things, but you really start to see, as it stretches out, you start to see I think I'll be uncomfortable the first time I go back to like a restaurant. I haven't been to a restaurant in almost 300 days, and I think it'll be a weird feeling when it happens. But in the meantime, I'm trying to seize on the good stuff and capture the good stuff. And Christmas was one of those things for me. We have some fairly, I guess, strange Christmas traditions in our house. They're not that weird. We don't sacrifice a goat or anything. I apologize if you sacrificed a goat recently. It was never my intention to insult anybody. Please don't write any letters or stop watching the podcast. That goat probably had it coming. But we don't do anything like that. The one thing that we do is we watch a live concert from this band called Flogging Molly, and they're like a Celtic punk band that I really like and have loved for a long time. And for some reason, I put it on Christmas Eve 11 years ago, and then the next year it was like, well, that was fun, let's do that again. And this year was the 11th year in a row that on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day we watch Live at the Greek Theater by Flogging Molly, and it's lovely. And I realized this year that it being the 11th year means we have done it every single year of my son's life, and I like that he'll have that to look back on, that his family had some things that were unique to them, and there was some consistency there. Because consistency was one of the things that I think was really lacking when I was a kid, in some good ways and in some bad ways, and in some ways that were out of people's control. And but it is something I see other people, they have these rich traditions that span generations and that kind of thing. And I'm sure that if you're in those, they can feel like a burden sometimes, and if you're out of them, they can seem like they'd be the greatest thing in the world to have. So I try not to have any feelings about it. I just I realized that we've developed a few traditions throughout the year, over the years, and I felt good about that. And I hope you guys had a good time doing what you do. I have no doubt that it was different this year for a lot of people, as it was for us. We certainly didn't get to see the people we wish we could have seen, but we made the best of it, and that's all you can do. Hopefully someday we'll be able to look back on this year, and if we're grateful for anything, be grateful for the fact that we were forced to learn how to find the good and make the best of it without denying any of the reality. Speaking of not denying the reality, a sad thing happened on Christmas. We lost the great Tony Rice. For those of you that don't know, Tony Rice was a otherworldly, legendary guitar player. He played mostly in the bluegrass realm, and he was a giant. He was, you would not get any argument if you said he, a few days ago was the best living bluegrass guitar player. And if you did get some pushback, it would just be, well, he's top 3 with some other living legends or some recently passed legends. In fact, he's so legendary that what I'm holding here is a Martin HD28 LSV. The LSV stands for Large Sound Hole Vintage Bracing. If you can tell, or if you can't tell, the sound hole on this guitar is oversized. And the reason for that is Tony Rice's D28 had that, and he made it himself. Or did he make it, or did Clarence White make it? Because he got it from Clarence White. I should research that. But it's a legendary guitar, and this is the sort of unofficial Tony Rice signature model Martin. It belongs to my dad, and it is in my custody while he is overseas, and this is the easiest favor I've ever done for somebody. He said, "Hey, would you hold on to the Martin for me while I'm away?" And I said, "Yeah." And since I've had it, it has appeared on all my records and a few other people's records, and everybody that knows guitars that hears this guitar kind of stops and goes, "Wow, there's some magic there." And I think there's some magic in it that my dad put in as well. And so I thought I'd play it for you today because we'll remember Tony Rice. I unfortunately don't have any of his records to recommend to you because they're exceedingly hard to get a hold of, because many of them came out in the early 80s, and that was a weird time for vinyl. It was around, but it was viewed sort of the way CDs are now, like, oh, that's over, man. So a lot of that stuff never got pressed, and then I think there's this unfortunate thing with bluegrass that maybe is within the culture itself, that people think it's not worth reissuing or trying to bring into the present day. And there's people doing bluegrass nowadays that are doing great, like Billy Strings and people like that. But you don't see a ton of like legacy reissues of classic bluegrass records. And I wish that you did, because they sound as vibrant and as current even as ever, because I think the techniques they use to record it, an acoustic guitar sounds like an acoustic guitar, whether you record it in the 50s or the 80s or today, as long as you don't do too much to it afterwards. But I can recommend you some Tony Rice songs that I really hope you'll check out, and I'll put links to. Check out Church Street Blues, which is a Norman Blake song that Tony Rice kind of famously did really, really well. And Where the Soul of Man Never Dies, that he did with Ricky Skaggs. He did a whole record with Ricky Skaggs that is really, really worth your time. And I hope you check it out. I was sad to hear that we lost him, but I was glad to know that he left behind plenty to be proud of, for sure. And we've been listening to it a lot here in the house in the days since, and I've been noticing how it kind of impacts my son. Occasionally I'll say, "Hey man, is that too loud?" Because he'll be doing some homework or playing video games or something. He'll go, "No, I really like it," and that makes me feel good. What else? I had a real stupid problem, if you guys want to hear about that. I feel a responsibility to be honest with you guys about this, because sometimes, when you're doing a podcast, or when you're playing a concert, or you're even just meeting people for coffee, you kind of want to put your best foot forward, and you don't want to reveal all of your rough edges and pointy corners and things like that. And maybe with this podcast, I run the risk of seeming too at peace or enlightened or whatever, and I'm certainly not. So this thing happened that I thought I would tell you guys about, because it's pretty much the opposite of, it's me doing the opposite of what I encourage people to do via this podcast. And that is, there's a band from Scotland called Idlewild, and they are one of my favorite bands on the planet. I adore them. I have loved them since I was in high school, coming up on 25 years now that they've been a band, and I've loved them for probably 20 of those. They have 9 records. I love them. And they never really hit over here in the States, but they played here a few times. They opened for Pearl Jam and that kind of thing, just to give you an idea of like what size band they are overseas. They've opened for Coldplay and that kind of thing. And when they came here, they opened for Pearl Jam. And for some reason, they just didn't connect with American audiences. And for European bands, it's hard to do, because in America, you have to tour a lot to kind of break through, but it costs a lot of money if you're not from here to come over here and that kind of thing. So a lot of bands, if they don't have a kind of immediate success, they can't really justify continually coming over here. Anyways, there's this band called Idlewild that I love, and because they never really hit in America, I've never in my life met anybody who loves Idlewild the way that I love them. They might know who they are, they might have a record or two they really like, but I've never met anyone that I can sit down and like talk about B-sides with, or talk about, their singer, he has these solo records that are really great, we should talk about those, or I got his book of poetry and lyrics and that kind of thing. And in some ways that feels good. I have this little secret, and in other ways it feels like not isolating, that's over dramatic, but it does feel like, oh man, I wish someone loved this band the way I do. And the other downside is it's very hard to get their stuff here in America, because you have to deal with shipping and that kind of thing. So I'm scrolling through Instagram, because I'm an idiot, and I see they've announced a book. They did a book celebrating 25 years of Idlewild, and it's pictures and sort of journal entries and little bits of history about the band, and lineup changes, and this monumental record and that monumental record, and this problem we had, and this tour that was a bust, and something I really want. And it's only $20. And I go, oh man, that's awesome. I'm gonna smash that order button. So I click the order button, and it's 20 pounds, which of course, when you convert that to dollars, it goes up. And then shipping is 20 pounds, which of course, when you convert it to dollars, it goes up. And at the end of this equation, I'm staring down the barrel of like a $70 purchase for a book, mid-pandemic, when I'm not playing shows and that kind of thing. And I just couldn't do it. I felt like it would be kind of irresponsible and just, I just couldn't do it. Despite the fact that my 11-year-old said, just do it, man. If you want to live life recklessly, I highly recommend installing an 8-year-old or an 11-year-old into your house, because they just want you to be happy. He doesn't care if it means we can't pay the rent next month. Just get the book, man. You deserve the book. That's what he said to me. But I decided not to. But what happened is, it really upset me. And to an extent that I'm almost embarrassed to admit, it put me in a mood. It put me in a funk. It made me sad. I felt like something had been taken away from me, because in 2020, when there's so little to be excited about, I got all excited into this thing that I love that brings me all this joy, and then almost immediately it was taken away from me because of where I live and the economic impact of COVID and all this kind of stuff. And I was upset. I was really bothered for like 24 hours, not straight, but I would think about it for 24 hours. And every time I thought about it, I would go, oh man. And I would either be sad or I would be really upset. And 24 hours later, the next day, I finally kind of took myself by the shoulders and I said, look, this is a dumb thing to be upset about. In a world where people die and get hurt and deal with real problems, and you yourself deal with real problems, this is not a problem. And then I immediately transitioned to, why was I so disappointed? Well, because I love this band. Well, why do I love this band? Because I love their music. Well, listen to their music. So I made a playlist of my favorite Idlewild songs, and to demonstrate how much I love this band, it had 99 songs on it, and it was 5 hours and 43 minutes long. So I put this playlist on, I hit shuffle, and all day long I listened to Idlewild and was not sad anymore. And the more I think about that, the more I sort of see the lesson in it, that oftentimes when we're not all the time, but a lot of the time when we're disappointed, the root of that disappointment is love or enthusiasm or enjoyment or something. And maybe more often than we like to admit, we can redirect right back to that feeling. So for me, instead of feeling like I need more stuff to be happy and I deserve this book and no one loves it as much as I do, and I just went, what can I enjoy here? Instead of what can I feel like I'm lacking? What can I dig deeper into that I already have? And I have all this wonderful music. And I've been listening to them a lot lately and just really sort of reveling in how much I like their music. And instead of feeling like I want more from them, just enjoying what they've already given me. And that's been really good. And it's something that I'm going to try to carry into the rest of my life and almost certainly fail. Let's play a song on this wonderful guitar. As you maybe heard, it's in a weird tuning today because I'm going to play you a song that's in a weird tuning. It's an unreleased song, and because it's unreleased, it doesn't officially have a title. When I need to refer to it, I refer to it as, I call it In the Ground. I don't know if it ever comes out. I don't know if that'll be the final title. I don't know if it's finished. Sometimes it feels unfinished. Sometimes it feels just right. But it's one of these songs that I like, and it just never found a home. And I thought it would be fun to play it for you. It's about one of those moments in your life that I think everybody has several of them, but you have these events in your life that are so big or so important or sometimes so painful or sometimes so joyous that they become part of how you measure your life. You have your life before this event and your life after. And I have several, and a lot of them are really good. I have my life before I married my wife and my life after. I have my life before we had our son and my life after. I have my life before I became a full-time musician or whatever I am now. And I have my life after. But there are some moments that were more painful and felt like a pretty thick line right through the middle of my life where like, okay, that was before this, everything else will be after this. And I wrote this song about it. And I think having told you what I've told you, it's fairly self-explanatory without being so specific that it's impenetrable. But it's in a fun tuning, and I hope you enjoy it. It goes like this.
Young when I left home, but I'm younger now today. 'Cause it was like being reborn, so I watched you fade away. I just had to leave town, I just had to get out, put me in the ground. Now I know that not for nothing all those angry days, but I've been dragging them behind me. I gotta put them in their place. gotta put 'em down. I gotta leave 'em where they're found before they put me in the ground. Young when I left home, but I'm younger now today.
All right, it's a fun tuning. I sometimes wonder if I had written it in a standard tuning if it would have found a home sooner, but the utilitarian part of me is like, I don't want to have to set up a whole second guitar on stage for this open tuning for this one song. All stuff I'm sure you're riveted to know. Let's do some recommendations and let's get you outside so you can play in the snow. My son is very excited because it has snowed, and I'm excited too because it's challenging me on a goal I set out. I don't enjoy winter because where I live it gets really cold, it snows a lot, and it gets in my way. It's hard to travel to shows. It's hard to get people to come to shows. All this stuff when it's snowing, and I have to get my son to and from school, and it's freezing cold, and it sucks. And I guess one of the upsides that I've ripped out of the bowels of 2020 is that I don't have any shows to go to, and I don't have any shows to try to get people to, and I don't have to bring my son to school. So I have no reason to not enjoy winter. So I've set myself the goal of I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to watch my son play in the snow, and I'm going to enjoy the quiet and the sights, and it's going pretty good so far. It's the first day, but it's going pretty good so far. I shoveled last night and didn't hate it and didn't mutter under my breath and that kind of thing. So I'll keep you posted. We'll see how it goes. Excuse me, I'm just getting over a little cold here. First of all, of course, this band is called Idlewild. They're from Scotland. This record is called Post-Electric Blues, and it's interesting because this is not the one most people would recommend to you. They have this trilogy of records that just came out in a row. They're not really a trilogy, but they're tremendous, and I think most people would pick from one of those. But this record, I think, is really the best one if you have not heard the band. This is them at their sort of mid-tempo rock and roll, kind of jangly, a little twangy sometimes, just nice. And then if you like it, there's different records I would recommend based on what you like on this record. You can go way far back, and they get real kind of angular and weird. And when they first came out, the NME described them as the sound of a flight of stairs falling down a flight of stairs, which is my favorite thing, because they were like a punk band back in the day, and then they evolved into kind of like an REM kind of band, and then a real big like anthemic rock band, and then kind of a weird folk noisy band. Like, they're just great. Every record sounds different, and I recommend them all. But start with this one. It's called Post-Electric Blues. Listen to Younger Than America, and if you don't like it, stop watching this podcast. Up next, we have Richmond Fontaine. This record is called You Can't Go Back If There's Nothing to Go Back To. Richmond Fontaine is the name of a band, not a dude. They are a band from Canada, and they're terrific. They're a country band, more in like the alt country vein than the straight up country vein, but they're great, and they're carrying on the tradition of really great dusty, twangy Canadian country rock, you know. To my ear, they sound a bit like, or their singer sounds a bit like Jay Farrar, so I think the band sounds a bit like Sun Volt, but different in their way. And I really enjoy this band and have been digging more and more into their stuff. They've been around for a long time, so there's plenty to check out, and I hope you do. This is one of the more recent ones. check out Tapped Out in Tulsa, and I think you'll like it. Yeah. It's weird how many great bands that sort of define the American sound or Americana. It's weird how many of them are from Canada. Isn't that weird? I think it's weird. It's weird enough that it has me wondering if these guys actually are from Canada, but I'm almost positive. And if they're not, you know, the band was from Canada. Neil Young was from Canada. Still is. All right. I hope this was good. I hope you enjoyed it. It felt a little weird for me, to be honest. I think I'm overly caffeinated. Let's have some coffee. Like I said, I'm overly caffeinated, and I'm adjusting to a different kind of schedule with vacation and everything. And Christmas can be kind of heavy sometimes, can't it? For everybody, I think. But for me, this year was tricky. It had some tricky moments for sure. In part, seeing how other people were celebrating and who with, and knowing that I wasn't with those people for a variety of reasons. Some geographical, some, you know, other. And that was tricky. But I have found that, you know, in those moments, if I lean into being the things that I don't have access to, being that for someone else, it makes me feel better. So I was missing my dad, and you know, I haven't seen him in over a year now. And every time I got real sad about that, I would try to shift immediately into being a dad and spending some time with my son and trying to take an interest in the things he likes, and that helped a little bit. And then there's other stuff you just can't do much about except kind of tell your wife and take the hug and try to move on, and listen to Tony Rice, which I hope you guys will do. In the meantime, thank you guys for all the messages and the nice words about the podcast, and about I've gotten a lot of nice messages about my music and the podcast, and how people feel about it, and that means a lot to me. It's one of the reasons I'm doing it, frankly. So I'll meet you back here next week. Ollie, my son, asked me if I was going to take a break and for the holidays, and I realized it hadn't even occurred to me. So we'll just keep going right on through, and you know, it'll be fun, hopefully. I'm gonna stop rambling, but I'll see you next week, and be good until then. I love you guys. Happy holidays. I don't think I'll see you again before New Year's, but I hope it goes well, and yeah, be good. Bye.